Just doing the mix between like the regular gigs and uh, the stuff that just falls down the pipeline, and trying to set up, you know, new things for the coming year.
Yeah.
And, the regular stuff.
Awesome, man. So I kind of wanted to just, like, I was introduced to you through obviously Kill Tony. Like, that's was
Yeah.
one of the reasons I got in touch with you. But also, like, it seems like there's been this big influx of like movement towards Texas, like across the board in
Sure,
America. Like,
sure.
I follow like obviously Joe Rogan and kind of everything that's going on over there. And I'm a musician myself, so like I'm quite interested in how that whole situation's working. Have you always lived in Texas? Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up.
Yeah.
I grew up in Amarillo, which is in they call it the Panhandle, like the top little portion of Texas. And I moved from there down to the Dallas Fort Worth area to go to school, and then came to Austin right afterwards, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome.
And I don't know if I had my choice, I don't know if I would have preferred to stay in Texas. It just kind of ended up being that way.
Is that where most of the work is?
I feel like um, there's like a pretty good amount of work in Dallas. Um, in Dallas and Austin, those are two big ones. There's some decent work in Houston, depending on what you do, and San Antonio. But yeah, I mean, Texas isn't like it isn't known for like music industry stuff at all. Like the cities for that are LA and New York.
Right.
This just kind of ended up happening this way, and I like Austin, so I stuck it out.
Yeah.
Made a go of it.
Seems like there's a real like vibrant scene there just now.
Yeah.
I know obviously, like, sure most musicians in the world know about like South by Southwest as well.
Yeah.
Like I've got a lot of friends in bands who have travelled over and played showcases and just try and
Ah,
sweat it out and stuff. And I always wanted to come over. I was in an originals band maybe about 10 years ago, and we always wanted to go to South by Southwest, and we ended up going to the one in Singapore, Music Martyrs or something I think it's called. So
oh
we ended
wow.
up doing that one. So I've got a rough idea of what it's like where you play like in over there. We played in like a bunch of bars, um, and worked our way up till we eventually played like this sort of main stage that was in the centre of Singapore. And we
Hmm.
played with like a bunch of other artists that some ended up doing great things, some ended up just kind of disappearing like us. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Like I imagine, is it something similar where there's like a bunch of bars and
Yeah, and well, yeah, it's wild. There's one street where a lot of stuff happens, and it used to just be kind of consolidated to that street, but now it's kind of spread out from there, and it's weird because I mean, I'm not sure what Sixth Street was like before I got here. It seems like at some point Sixth Street was was like a decent spot to go for work. There were like good gigs, and like there was money to be made there. But it's kind of become like, I mean, with all due respect, it's kind of become like a little bit like trashy, because like too many people just go there to party. The
right,
whole street's just lined with bars, so they shut the street down at night, and it's just like the whole area is just flooded with drunk people. Um, but then when South by Southwest pops up, that's where almost everything is going down. Um, so it becomes way more insane in terms of just like the density of people there.
right,
But then like the caliber of shows that you can catch or act, obviously like they're better because this music festival is going on.
yeah,
Um, And then, since the festival just keeps getting bigger and bigger each year, they keep like spreading further and further away from the street. There's now stages like just anywhere from like 2 to 4 blocks away, and it just seems to get a little bigger every year. And the stuff that happens around the week gets bigger too. Like I guess it started as a music and film festival, but now it's become also like a tech
Yeah,
thing as well. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
it's wild. So, like, when did you start playing music?
Let's see. I guess I picked up a guitar when I was about 14. It was just a hobby for a while. I did 1 year of college before I decided like I wanted to study music. And then it still took me some time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I just went to community college for a couple years and then decided to go up to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and study at North Texas. And it was there while I was in school, like that I started to like gig out professionally. So it's been kind of like a slow entry, but then, once I finally got there, it was like, oh yeah, this is definitely what I should be doing. And I'm old now. I don't guess I look it, but like, I'm 41. I've been playing professionally in Austin since 2007.
Right.
And yeah, maybe like 2 to 4 years of gigging experience in the Dallas Fort Worth area before that. So it's been a while.
Was there ever a time where, like, where you were actively trying to pursue? And this might sound silly because you have a career in music just now, but was there ever a time where you were actively trying to pursue a career in the sense of like trying to get a record deal in a band and all of that stuff?
There was when I moved to Austin from the Dallas Fort Worth area. I moved here with a band, and the whole idea was like to try and just live in the same space, do shows, figure out what the next steps were in terms of industry. Try to figure out where the labels are, especially in Austin, and figure out like a distribution deal and how to grow it from there. But that didn't last very long. And I've been in several other outfits since then that were, basically navigating similar waters. And none of them have come to fruition in that sense.
Yeah,
Quite yet. Some of them, there's a couple of groups now that I do have some hope for. But it's become like a different kind of career path at this point. I think at
yeah,
some point I was like, yeah, I'm just going to be in a band and that band will tour and that's going to be my life. But now it's like, no, I do a lot of freelance work. I do church gigs and wedding gigs, and I transcribe music for people, and I do still have these original projects, and I do still push and hope that some of them can break through. But I'll still be a career musician whether that happens or not.
yeah. It's sort of similar to myself in a way. Like I have my main sort of source of income is like a wedding band. That's where like I
Mm-hmm.
feed my family and stuff, and then I have all this other kind of stuff going on, man. And it's like I think it's weird because I don't know how you feel, right? But like I feel like having a family it sort of like started to support the reality that, you know, like music is what I do as well. Like for a long time, it felt like it was something that was over the hill, and that I had to achieve it, and it like that would have came in the shape of like a record deal and being a famous musician and all that stuff. But now it's just a part, especially in Scotland. Scotland's quite a small place, and there's a lot of big bands came out of Scotland, and now like I know some of those people, and do you know what I
Mm.
mean? Like you become like part of the the scene as well, because you're just actively trying to make money from music as well, like trying to
Yeah.
feed your family, and it becomes less about like I need to know those people to benefit my career, and more about you just end up meeting them along the way because you're just doing so much.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
feel something similar, or
Yeah, very similar. Sorry, like half of my face just looks like a glowing white ball. But yeah, it's a very similar thing where yeah, you know, and yeah, you meet, like I've got, you know, I got friends that I've got a friend that I was a roommate with, you know, like 10 years ago now, who does work for Kanye, and like I knew him before he was gigging professionally.
mm-hmm.
Um, I've got friends out in the LA scene that like tour with Hans Zimmer, um, and you know, like I'll brush elbows with the peeps from Nowhere when they come to town, and now with Kill Tony, it's like I've been on stage with Joe Rogan, and it just seems like this weird thing. It always seemed like, well, I wouldn't get to hobnob with famous people until I was famous,
Yeah,
and now it's like, no, 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 that's not actually the case.
and that's
And
obviously a testament to the like how talented you are as a musician as well, and like all the guys in the band. Like, I don't know if you ever watched the previous format of Kill Tony, like with
I've watched a
the
few
older band,
episodes.
but it's a totally different thing. Like it's good in a different way, but like the music is sort of presented in a sort of comedic way. But you guys
Yeah,
really, um, I and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you. Like I genuinely prefer the format of the show now, and the way that I think because I'm a musician, I think it just feels so much better. Like on the last episode, there was a bit where I think Tony was talking about one of the guys on stage, and he was saying that he looked like the guy from Moana, and you guys
yeah,
started playing that song. Like, and I was like, there's no, like, that couldn't have really happened in the previous format, you know what I
right,
mean? But that was
yeah,
actually something I kind
absolutely.
of wanted to talk to you about, like, how much of that is prepared? Like, did that just happen to be something that you guys knew, or is there a conversation where you're like, let's jam out this
Yeah,
thing?
that's a great question. And actually, I love talking about this because I don't think that everyone who's seen the show like actually realizes this, but you know, the band, like all those guys, like D Madness and John and Mike, um, we've all been like professional, like working musicians for years now. So there is a lot of repertoire that we, you know, have in our bag.
Hmm.
Um, and we're also all like, you know, um, pretty deep in like the improvisational side of things too. So relatively most of what happens on the show is unrehearsed.
Wow.
And it's the kind of thing where like every, you know, the people on stage are the only people allowed to have like their phones. You know, I know, you know, you probably know what went down between Tony and that guy Pang Dang.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like there's been a rule that, you know, they lock up audience members' phones during the show, just so that, like, you know, no one can kind of repeat what Pang Dang kind of did.
Yeah.
And but the people on stage, you know, the guests and the panel and the band, we all get to have our phones with us. And so the guys in the band, we've just basically got, you know, Spotify pulled up for reference. And if there's a moment in the bit or during the interview where someone says something that we feel like we could use, then we either play it if everybody knows it, or everyone just pulls out their earbuds and
Right.
we'll do a quick listen. You know, the bumps that we
That's
play in
crazy,
between
man.
sets are, you know, they're never longer than like a minute and a half. So
Yeah.
as long as we can hit like the chorus of that famous tune, whatever that tune is, then basically the moment lands. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, they just mentioned Moana, and then these guys are playing "You're Welcome." Like that's pretty wild. But yeah, a lot of that stuff is just like,
I don't
oh,
even know how many viewers actually catch those things as well.
yeah,
It's awesome. Like just to watch it, man. It's so cool. But yeah, I always
yeah,
always wondered that. Like since you guys were a part of the show, like how much that's rehearsed. That's
yeah.
awesome. And I take it, if you do you play in bands with any of the other guys, or have you previously played in bands with them?
Yeah, D Madness and John and I were all in a group with this singer in town. His name's Terrell Shaheed, and he had a residency at this cool little spot on Rainy Street called the Half Step. And we were doing that like right up until the pandemic shut everything down in Austin.
Right.
Um, and we were really enjoying it. We had a really good thing going. And so when Tony moved the show to town, um, they very quickly got wind of John because John plays with Gary Clark Jr. And so I think that's how the whole thing started. Is I think they approached John to put a band together, and yeah, he very quickly approached D and I. I think we were just still fresh on his mind because we had been having such a good time with the residency prior to that. He very
Yeah.
quickly approached us and asked us to be a part of the thing.
That's awesome, man. It's kind of
And
like
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, it's hard because like the pandemic's been such a frustrating thing for musicians, but that's also like such a great gig to land.
Yeah,
What like, it's cool if you don't want to talk about this. This is nothing like intrusive or anything, but I was watching Red Band talking about the, like, in Texas, he feels like the music scene feels really affected by how comedy's sort of taken over. Like there's a lot of bands that seem to have like gripes with comedy having such a, like, taking up so much time and venues and stuff like that. Does that seem to be the way?
I
Is that what it's like? I don't know.
I I can't. I mean, I can't speak for the whole music scene, obviously, but none of the people in like the circles that I run into seem to be sharing that gripe. I've definitely heard like Red Band talk about that situation, um, and as soon as he said it, it was news to me. I was like, huh.
Yeah,
I wonder who this is a rub for, you know, and who's been, bringing that up. And yeah, I'm not really hip to who's frustrated about that. And honestly, the way I looked at it, I felt like it could only help us, you know, if bigger industry people move to the city, then like bigger industry people will put eyes on the city, and that
yeah.
eventually can, I hope, only mean good things for the musicians who have made a home here.
And going by
Um,
the whole Kill
but
Tony
yeah,
situation, like you guys have, like, the musicians have directly benefited from comedy. Um,
definitely.
I get really, I don't know how you feel, man, but I get really like jealous of comedy in general right now, just because it seems like what music was maybe 20, 30 years ago about like pushing the boundaries and I don't know, like when I watch a show like Kill Tony, man, it just seems like the energy in the rooms, like exactly why I started music, why I wanted to play in bands, and the feeling of being in a club when you were younger and playing fucking trashy grunge music. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
seeing
yeah.
comedy in its rawest form, man. It just like I get really jealous of it, man. I don't know how you feel, but that's
I don't,
what I get.
I don't know if I experience. I don't know if I experience jealousy. And I don't mean that in any judgmental sort of way. I just haven't thought about that. The thing I do experience is like kind of the excitement that's in the air.
Hmm.
Just seeing the way people are. Yeah, the way people are just like pumped about an art form when we're all in the room together. It really, it's very palpable, and uh, and that amps me up. Pretty much 100% of the time. I'm a pretty empathetic guy, so like those vibes just like they affect me very much so.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's exciting to be a part of it and see, man, and just see all these people experiencing that. Like, we got to watch Hans Kim go from like literally a no one to like touring with Joe Rogan.
yeah.
And I get to hang out with this guy in the green room and just kind of like watch as this like huge change in his life unfolds. And it's a really exciting thing to watch.
It's crazy. It's happened in such a short space of time as well. Like I think it would be for any like outsider looking at the whole is it Pet Ping Pangdang
Yeah.
Pangdang, yeah, but looking at that whole situation would have been quite easy to like feel like his introduction to the show was like a like a tactic, but like Hans Kim is such a incredible comedian, man, like world
Yeah.
class, just came out of nowhere, man. Like, I mean, you see how much he's blown up as well. Like he's totally earned his stripes in that situation, man. Yeah, it's nuts.
It's been really wild. Yeah. And to see, I don't think people realize how absolutely hard it is to be consistently funny.
Yeah,
And to watch this guy come out like week after week after week and write like a new minute, and just like, holy shit, this guy is still funny. No one knew who this guy was 6 months ago. And this guy
yeah,
is just like, just
smashing it.
boom, boom, boom. Like, I watch him and I'm just like, dude, how do you do that? It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's awesome. What like there seems to be there's a dynamic that you have as a viewer that I
Mm.
imagine is probably different from what it's like there. But one of the things that I do get to observe is that there seems to be a different dynamic to what the crowd in the room are experiencing, and then you guys with everyone that's on stage. There's things
Yeah.
that like it seems like the crowd miss sometimes that you
Yeah.
all of you guys are in on, man. I love that stuff. It's funny because I only really discovered Kill Tony like within maybe the past year and a half.
Mm.
And I was aware of it, obviously, because I watched Joe Rogan, I watched a couple other podcasts, so I was aware of like Tony Hinchcliffe and that whole scene, but I just never, other than a few clips, had never paid that much attention to it. And then it just came into my life, man, and like I don't miss it. It's the one, even this podcast that I've enjoyed for years that I still miss like weeks of, and like Kill Tony is the one thing that consistently I still tune into, man. It's fucking so good, man. So good. You like
Man, I'm
really
glad you
caught onto
enjoy it.
something. I think you really got like just the format of it, man. It's like perfect.
Yeah.
60 seconds, man.
Yeah. It's really incredible to be a part of. Well, and kind of rewinding a little bit to what you were talking about the way the show is different now with the new band and all that. I I wasn't hip to the show at all before I got the call, and so like a lot of this stuff was just new information and unfolding like in real time right in front of me. but eventually I did find out that move to like have a professional band instead of comedians playing music was very intentional. And you also see that he has like sometimes a painter in the room, but also Ryan J. Ebelt, you know, drawing the show, and
Yeah.
then professional um, chefs and caterers like catering food for the after party and stuff, and then Adrian Cavazos, leather making joke books for the show,
Yeah.
and it's just like art of all different kinds all over the place happening in real time from right out of the gate till the very end of the show. And that's what Tony wanted. He wanted
Yeah.
it to be this crazy multimedia experience. And that's why he made the move from comedians playing music to a live band. And as far as I can tell, it's like it's really working. People are enjoying it, and people are, you know, kind of also marveling at the same just amount of like events that are happening, like micro events and macro events that are all just happening in real time as the show unfolds.
Yeah.
Tony's got a real genius in kind of seeing like the potential for a thing to like bloom both in like expected and unexpected ways, but all ways that are going to be like very fascinating to take in.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a crazy thing to be in the room while the whole thing's going down. There's so many things going on, you can't catch it all. And it is fun to like get into the YouTube comments each week and just see like what little moments people caught, or gravitated towards or what have you. It's a really crazy experience each
Yeah.
each each night.
Has there ever been something that just sort of passed you by during the show that has became like a like an event, or like something that's happened that's like historic in the show or whatever? Like,
Um, I mean, I've definitely missed things. I can't I can't honestly say if any of the things that I missed became gigantic. But I definitely miss things from time to time, and I'll go back and maybe watch an episode just because I wanted to relive like another moment, and then
yeah.
I don't have like 2.5 hours to watch the whole episode, so I'm just kind of skimming through, and
Yeah.
then like I'll accidentally stop at a thing that like I just did not remember happening. Plus like for whatever reason I became designated the official like assistant for when D Madness has to go to the bathroom. So
Oh,
he and
gosh.
I are always off stage for a good 3 minutes a night, and whatever goes on while like he's taking care of his business is something
Yeah.
that we'll miss.
Okay.
And it's always this moment where like he and I will be in the bathroom talking about stuff, and then you'll hear the crowd like erupt. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna have to find that part on YouTube and see what
Yeah.
that was all about.
That's awesome, man. So what's like the plans in terms of, you were saying earlier that you've got like, is it session work that you do as well? I know when we were talking on Instagram,
Yes,
you'd mentioned that you've got some sessions booked in and stuff.
yeah. The session stuff is all very, very by chance. Like just like people find out about me through word of mouth, and so they'll call me in for stuff. There's an artist. Well, there's a couple artists here in town right now that are really kind of on the it seems like they're on the fast track to blowing up. And I just I'm fortunate enough to be the guy that they call for both their stage shows and their studio work. And so I'm just trying to be as available as possible for those guys. One of them is this band called Black Odyssey. It's spelled BLKODYSSY. And then another one is this guy, Harry Adokawa. His last name is very hard to spell. I think EdohouKwa. Massive
Okay.
apologies if I mess that up. But those guys are doing big things, and it's exciting to see where they may go. And then I've got my own projects. I've got a
Open.
handful of things that I'm going to be, just like working with indefinitely. There's a group that I work with called the I-35 band, and we mostly play like music that I wrote and or like music that other artists wrote that we get called like as a unit to be the backing band for. I've got my own like super original project right now called Open 2.0 that we just started.
I was going to speak to you about that as well. Seems really
Yeah.
interesting. Was there ever an Open 1.0?
That's a great question. So the band, I guess prior, it's funny. It's like evolved in like tiny increments, but I had a group with that same drummer and with the violinist called McMeta, and it was a different bass player, and we actually had a bit of a falling out, and the violinist and I left the band, and they continued on without us. They got a new guitar player and they did another record. And then the bass player left the group. He went to Dallas to study law, and the drummer and I had a reconciliation and decided to like pick the project back up. And I had been talking to a couple of friends, just to see if they were interested in being a part of it, a bass player and a keyboard player. And they both were. The bass player couldn't commit to the rehearsal schedule that we were like immediately going for, so it just kind of fell into this, synth bass kind of quartet, basically like organ trio with a violin, but like synth trio, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing started out as like a big experiment to see if we could like make weird time signature music like accessible to a broader audience. And it's still very much that, but now it's become like a much deeper thing. There's still very much a huge emphasis on like crazy time signatures, but it's just very rhythmic music in general. And I like having synthesizer, in the mix, because like all the most like modern, even futuristic sounds that are coming out of music right now seem to be like synthesizer generated.
Yeah.
I love guitar, but they're just sound design things that like guitar really can't access right now. And I love having a synthesizer in the mix just to like have that in there. And then violin brings this element of emotion to it that I don't think any other instrument can touch. When the band first started out, it was just a rock trio, bass, drums, guitar. And when we added violin to the mix, there was immediate feedback from
Violin. I feel like violin brings to like a song what a voice brings to a song as well. Like really
Yeah, I
emotive,
agree.
beautiful, man.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's very much in its infancy, but we had kind of material that we never got to hash out with the original group. So we got to like hit the ground running in terms of like repertoire, and so now we're trying to build up a media presence and getting ready to book shows and stuff, and just kind of getting wrapped up in the excitement of all that, having fun with it.
That's awesome, man. There seems to be like a really big market, I think, because a lot of people play music now. Like,
Yeah,
bands like Wolfpack and stuff, like, they're like probably would have before been quite like a niche thing, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Or like a side project of a bigger bands thing. But and now, like, that has a platform for just millions of musicians to just like cream over. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
cool, man.
yeah, I
It's
agree.
awesome. That's amazing, man. So, you writing a record? Were you saying?
Yeah, we're gonna finish. We had three songs from the old group that we never got to basically fully realize before the
Mhm.
old lineup kind of like broke apart. And so we're starting there, and we're just gonna you know go from there in terms of like writing new material. And yeah, we're gonna try to. We had like a kind of like a half baked idea to like put out an EP before 2021 was over, and it was like that didn't happen. But I think within the year we can get a solid EP or maybe even a record out by the year's end, and we're definitely gunning for that.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Really cool. Thanks very much, like, for coming on, man. I appreciate
absolutely.
you taking the
Thank
time
you.
to do that.
Thank you for reaching out to me. It was I don't know, before Kill Tony, like just I've been kind of just doing the professional musician thing for such a long time that like having people from like all over the place like reach out to me seemed a bit foreign at a certain point. You kind of
Right.
like get to a point where the only new people you meet are people who are like connected to the outer rims of your circle already.
Yeah.
And so now it's a bit more like it's just a bit bigger. And so I'm still very much like a little kid in terms of that. It's like it feels really amazing and humbling and exciting every time. So it
I'm
means a
sh-
lot that you reached out. I appreciate it.
well, that's awesome, man. I'm sure there'll be more to come as well. Even bigger podcasts that will contact you
Yeah,
as well, man. And I have no doubt that that's going to lead to great things. I think one thing that you should do is post some of those cool clips, like the
yeah,
Moana stuff, man. You should post some of that stuff, because it is like, as a musician watching, like, it is awesome when you pick up on it.
yeah. Man, I agree, and it's good to hear someone say that because you know sometimes you're like, well, this is just an idea I have. I don't know, like, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. I might give it a shot, but like to hear someone else say it,
Mhm.
out in the open, um,
Like, there's
it feels
times
more tangible.
I can't even think like specifically like certain events, but I know that there's been times where I can see that nothing's been said. Like, there's not something specifically that like Tony or anybody else on the panel said something, but it's maybe some just a song that like compliments the person that's on stage or something that they said at some point in it, man. Like, so when you were saying earlier on, like, you guys are communicating during all of that stuff, like, that's just cool to know. I'm sure like the other people who watch, if they see this episode, man, they'll think that's cool as well. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I'd love to, like, I plan on coming out to Texas at some point if it allows it. Like, I'd love to like do an episode in person as well, man. If you were ever up
Oh, I'd
for
love
it,
it. I would love it.
um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to do
Please
some
just
gigs as well.
keep in touch. Let's keep in touch. And like, yeah, this feels like a new friendship forming already, if I may say so.
Yeah,
And yeah,
awesome, man.
when you decide to come out, if there's anything I could help you with, I'd be happy to. Just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man. I don't know if you want to let folks know your socials and
Oh,
everything you've got
sure.
going on.
The big one right now, the one I put the most effort into is just Instagram. Mutation, which is Mueh Tation. And yeah, I'm gonna build a Patreon page in the coming year, and um, everything that like I get into from here on out will be, the info for it will be on the Instagram page, and there's links to all the groups that I play in, And then like, yeah, links to my, my, like during the pandemic, I put out an EP under my artist name MTM, and that's on Bandcamp, and the links to that are in my Instagram page as well. So everything anyone needs to like or would want to find out about me can be found there. So, and you can always DM me, and I'm like, I really go hard trying to like respond to every single message I get through Instagram.
That's awesome, man. Again, like, thank you. Thanks very much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Great to meet you.